Good evening everyone, my name's Aaron and I want to just say a massive thank you for volunteering to join with us to do Love Dunfermline, and really grateful for your help. We have done this quite quickly in the last couple of weeks. We've done the fundraising. Delighted to say that we are about 80% of the way there. We wanted to raise about 2,500. We're at about just over the 2,000 mark, so that's wonderful. We needed to fill 48 volunteering slots, and thanks to you guys we managed to fill them, and we weren't able to use all the volunteers, so that's great news. We wanted to do a 6-day trial period just to test the waters, find out what the need is and see how it goes. So we've got 100 meals available at for 6 days, as you know, next week starting on Tuesday. And so far we've got about 17 people booked, so we've got about 17 meals per day booked so far. We're a little bit surprised. It's had a lot of shares on social media. We've had the criminal justice system share with their people. We've had 2 high schools, a number of primary schools share with their people via emails, via Twitter. A number of community groups, community workers, etc. have been sharing it with their people. So we're a little bit surprised that there's not more than 17, but it might just be a little bit slow to pick up or for people to book in. So at the moment it's sitting at 17, which means you guys are not going to be busy on your first few shifts unless we get a lot of bookings over the next day or two. But we are going to go ahead, keep advertising it, keep raising awareness. Anything you can do to raise awareness. I mean, we really want people to use it that need it. And we're not quite sure of the reasons why people aren't using it. We have got a hotline, a phone number that people can phone, and there is an online ordering system as well that they can book in online. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. I just want to pre-warn you that it's not going to be super busy with big long queues. At the moment we're going to go ahead with our plan, which is 3 collection points at the Vine Church, Woodmill High School and in the middle of Tuch. And at the moment there's only 1 or 2 collections from each of those areas. So we said for an hour. We'll finalise the plan in the next day or two, but we may give you extra meals for anybody that shows up, and just to ask people around the area as well at the local shops if they would know anybody that could benefit from it. So we'll finalise those kind of minor details in the next day or two, but at the moment we want to stick with the plan. We've got, for example, on Tuesday we've got about 7 deliveries, 1 collecting at Woodmill, 4 from the Vine and 1 at Tuch. So the key is just to be flexible and just enjoy it, and you know, all going well we'll be able to continue past the initial 6-day period, and we'll keep you updated on that as well. And that being the case, we'll be looking to get some more funding. So just wanted to go over a few details to save us some time when you arrive. Just again, you've all signed, well, most of you signed the volunteer agreement. If you haven't signed it, the volunteer agreement, I need that by Sunday, please. I need you to read it carefully and sign it. It's all online. You sign it online, fill it in and agree to it online. But at the moment the collection time is from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. So if you could arrive at the Vine Church by 2 p.m, you'll see from the rota that you're either scheduled as a delivery driver or as at a particular collection point. There's 3 collection points: Vine Church, Woodmill High School, and also in the centre of Tuch. Do park around the side and come to the front of the Vine Church, and I'll be there to meet you. And those that are going to the collection points will need to pick up a table. So 1 person would be able to take a table in their car. You'll need disinfectant wipes, which we'll provide, alcohol hand gel over 70%, which we'll provide, and we've been informed by 5 voluntary action groups that they'll provide us some face masks. Please bring your own in case for any reason they don't get to us, or if there's not enough. But we are being told that we're going to be getting face masks for you. So you'd arrive at 2 p.m. and please just adhere to the 2-metre social distancing between each other when you're waiting in the car park. There's a few types of people, those that are not too bothered about keeping the 2 meters social distancing, but we have to set an example as the volunteers. So please ensure that when we're talking to each other and waiting before, that we always keep to the 2 meter social distancing, and we set a good example with that. So you'll be collecting your food portions, the name list, and head to your collection zone. Set up the table. Now on the page, the Vine Church web page, there's Google Maps of the 3 collection points, so you can see where to position the table on the Google Maps. Set it up. You'll have your food portions, and as I said, at the moment we're only looking at 1 or 2 portions at the moment. What we'd love if there was 10, 15, 20 people, but we'll maybe have to build that up over a number of weeks. The delivery drivers would also collect the set number of portions. You'll be given the set number of portions for your deliveries. You'll be given the delivery list as well, and the drivers will need to decide amongst themselves who's going to do what delivery. But again, when you're communicating to each other, just keep communicating from a safe 2 meter social distance, and the volunteers need to social distance from each other as much, and sometimes we forget that. I work in community pharmacy, and the staff very often forget that they need to be 2 meters from each other as much as is possible. So I just want to go over a few expectations. Again, that's all in the volunteer agreement, but just very quickly to emphasize, you must under no circumstances show up or volunteer if you have any symptoms, and I'm sure you understand that. But any new signs of a cough, any high temperature, any symptoms of coronavirus, obviously, you know by now, you've heard it so many times, you're not going to show up and volunteer. When you're volunteering, be positive, be chatty, smile, and greet people. You're representing the Vine Church, so thank you so much for doing that. And you know, this may be the only face-to-face human contact a person has. So let's be friendly, let's be chatty, let's be smiling, let's offer excellent customer service. Even though it's volunteer customer service, it should be no less of a customer service experience. And if the person's open to chat a little, hi, how are you doing today? How are you getting on? That kind of thing. Do engage them in a little bit conversation, and just see how they're doing. Obviously, our communication between volunteers, and I know this is obvious to most of you, but we have to go over them anyway. Communication between each other and to our people using our service must be polite and professional at all times, and there's some more guidelines in the volunteers agreement. Any complaints about the service, about the food, please hand over to your team leader, and the team leader will deal with that and take any details. We're not expecting any, but you never know. Each collection zone will have 1 person who's allocated as a team leader for that collection site or that collection zone. Any safeguarding zone concerns, then pass that on to the team leader. Again, it's unlikely, but it's vulnerable adults or children that you expect or are suspicious of any type of abuse, whether it's verbal, whether it's neglect, any concerns about children or vulnerable adults while you're out doing your work, report it to the team leader, we'll report it to myself, we'll report it to our safeguarding officer at the church, and take it from there. So any safeguarding, which means looking after vulnerable adults and children with any concerns over any type of abuse or neglect, then you would raise that with your team leader. Onto confidential information. Obviously, we have to, this includes personal data, addresses and telephone numbers which you would receive, especially delivery drivers, but all that information you receive about any person while volunteering must remain 100% confidential at all times, not be passed on in conversation to anybody. You can't even mention to a friend, oh, such and such used the service, or did you realize that, without even knowing what you're doing. But some people might not want others to know that they're using this service. They might be embarrassed or a little bit sheepish about it, and that's fine, we respect that. So any information you receive must be shredded or handed back to the team leaders at the end, or you must shred it or rip it up into small pieces get rid of it, but don't leave it lying about in cars, because that's people's personal confidential information such as telephone numbers, addresses, etc, etc, etc. In the unlikely situation that the media were to get in touch with you, the newspaper, the radio stations, then just direct them to myself, just so that we can ensure the accuracy of the information and maintain good relationships with the media. So again, it's unlikely, but just say to them that you can't answer the questions and you need to pass them over to myself. We will handle any media inquiries. If commenting personally, whether that's to individuals or whether that's via social media, just make clear that any comments that you are expressing about the service are your personal comments, and that you're not being understood as commenting on behalf of the Vine Church. These are your personal comments or personal opinions about the service, etc., but you're not commenting on behalf of the organisation as a whole or on behalf of the Vine Church, and just obviously make that clear, so it doesn't seem like an official statement, but it's your personal statement. So, who can volunteer? Again, it's clearly outlined in the volunteer agreement, which you've read and signed, so don't need to labour these points, but again, I want to be seen to have at least gone through some of these basic guidelines with yourselves. Anyone who's 18 to 64, we're being on the side of caution, bringing it to 64. Technically, the at-risk group is 70 and over, although the older you get, beyond 65 even, the risks increase. So we're being extra cautious, saying 18 to 64. You mustn't be in an at-risk group. There's a whole list of the at-risk groups on a volunteer agreement. So please make sure you're not in one of the at-risk groups as detailed on the volunteer agreement, which is a list of groups that have been provided by the Scottish Government, which includes those who qualify for example, the flu vaccine and other health conditions. So if you have pre-existing health conditions, are in an at-risk group, you cannot volunteer, I'm afraid, and just let us know or go back and read that. But if you've signed it, it means that you've agreed you're not in one of those groups. And as I said earlier, you must not volunteer if you have any symptoms at all: high temperature, new continuous cough, any symptoms or even suspicious of symptoms of coronavirus. Okay, we're on to good hygiene practices now. While you're volunteering, please ensure you follow the good hygiene practices. Wash hands regularly, and if there's no hand washing facilities available, use alcoholic hand wash or rub, which we'll be providing for you. So when you're at the collection sites, there'll be no hand washing facilities, so do use the alcohol hand gel regularly, and after any contact with surfaces or anything like that. Obviously the normal, which we're all getting used to now, but even more so when we're volunteering, to avoid touching your face, which is very difficult, and hopefully I've not touched my face yet, but I never know when I look back on this. Avoid contact with people. So we're trying to, there shouldn't be any contact. We don't need to hand the food to the person. We can just say to the person, please take a portion of food from the table, and we can keep back, and there's no contact necessary with the person involved. What we'll do is we'll just take their name, a note of their name. So if someone arrives, just say, can I have your name please? You'll have your list, just score off their name. Some might have booked 2 or 3 portions for their family. Just score off their name and say, thanks very much, how are you doing today? Thanks for using the service. How are you feeling? How are you finding things? If they want to engage in conversation, have a bit of conversation. If they want to get away quickly, that's fine. Just ask them to take their portions off the table, thank them for using the service, and smile. Practice smiling. And some of you, that's very natural, and for others, it's not so natural. But avoid contact with people. Avoid using other people's personal items, such as their phone or keys. And if you're going to cough or sneeze, remember, catch it, bin it, kill it. So have tissues on you. If there's any cough or sneezing, you'll have a face mask on anyway. But if not, you use a tissue, or you cough or sneeze into your elbow. you dispose of the tissue into a bin. So you might want to have a little carrier bag or a disposal bag with you, and then you use alcoholic hand rub afterwards as well. So again, you should be very familiar with all these slogans and practices by now, but we can't emphasize them enough. And also can't express enough, again, keep the 2 meter social distancing at all times between volunteers and between you and members of the public. So you're going to stand back from the table, and so when you set up the table, you'll have the food portion set up on the table. You'll stand back even from the table, because the width of the table is less than a meter. So you want to stand back a width, and you're always going to keep the table between yourself and the members of the public. And then you're going to step back a meter or so that again you're keeping a 2 meter social distance in between you and the people that are collecting their food. At the moment, there's very few people that have signed up, but hopefully as the days and weeks progress, that will start to pick up and it'll get a bit busier, and it becomes more important that we remember these things. Wear face masks. We're hoping they're going to be provided. 5 Volunteer Action Group have been tremendous, and they're fully supportive. They really believe in what we're doing. They tell us there is a need. They're encouraging us to continue to persevere, not to give up. They believe there is a need, and they have actually got funding, and our project is one that they want to fund, and so they're going to apply for funding for our project for ongoing, and they're providing face masks as well and gloves. But bring your own one, and Mel Thompson has been making some for some of the ladies, and again, you can use, the Scottish Government recommends you can use your own. It can be made from cotton, 3 or 4 layers and some elastic bands. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there. Go to the Scottish Government website and bring your own face mask, and also remember to routinely clean and disinfection of surfaces. So you'll have a table and you'll have disinfectant wipes. You're there for an hour, so maybe 2 or 3 times an hour you'd want to disinfect. Again, is good. Some of it is actually just us promoting confidence to members of the public. They see us, that we're taking it seriously. They see us with the wipes. They see us wiping the surfaces down, taking the old wipe and putting it in a disposal bag, which is going to be tied and put into general waste. So regularly disinfect with your wipes surfaces, telephones, door handles or tables, or any surfaces that you're in contact with. Okay, not want to be too much longer, but for the people collecting the food, ensure they keep a 2 meter social distance in between them. Again, in the early days when there's very few numbers, it shouldn't be a problem. Where it might become more of a problem is if there's 20 people collecting from your table. And this happened in the early days in the pharmacy, and it's not so much now because people are very used to it at the supermarkets, at the pharmacies now. So people generally are much better at doing this now, but in the early days they were all piled in together about a meter apart. If that was to happen, you would just very gently take control of the situation, and before you start the service, just to say in a nice, loud but assertive voice and a polite and gentle way to please ask everyone to ensure that there's a 2 meter social distance in between them, to respect everyone's concerns for health and safety. Sometimes you have to go to the back of the queue and just ask everyone to take 2-3 steps back each. Excuse me, sir, can you take 3 steps back? Next one, and work your way forward. That would only be an instance if there's a lot of people showing up, so that might not be necessarily in the first few days, but just keep that in mind. And also, just one very important point, the food is coming cold with reheating instructions and an expiry date on the packages. So when you're not handing the food when they're collecting the food, because they're going to pick up themselves rather than you handing it to them. When they're collecting the food, just say, this food requires to be refrigerated as soon as possible. It's allowed to be out the food 2 to 4 hours. So say to them, please store this food in the fridge as soon as possible, and follow the reheating instructions on the pack. Okay, so delivery drivers, we're getting there. Delivery drivers, thank you so much. There's a number of people that have already said they are shielding, which is the highest level of risk So it's important that delivery drivers follow these guidelines carefully. They're very simple, very basic guidelines. It's guidelines that are used by a number of delivery services. What you would do is you'll have the list, you have the food portions in your vehicle, you have the list of people you're delivering to, you'll put the food onto the doorstep, you will then knock the door or ring the doorbell. You're going to stand at least 2 meters. Now, I would say even err on the side of caution, between 2 and 4 meters. So that's between 3 and 6 steps backwards. And then you're going to use alcohol hand rub on your hands because you've just touched the doorbell or the knocked on the door. So you've made a contact with a surface, so you need to use hand gel at that point. You're going to wait on them arriving to take their food. Just give them a smile. Good customer service. Thanks for using our service. Hope you enjoy the food. How are you doing today? If they're up for a wee bit of conversation, have a wee bit of chat. If they're not, then just thank them and move on. Please remind them to store the food in the fridge and follow the reheating instructions. Under no circumstances should anybody enter in a house, so please don't ever go into the house under any circumstances. That's for many, many reasons, but particularly during coronavirus season, do not enter a person's home. If there's no answer, you can leave the food on the doorstep and you'll have the person's phone number. You can try phoning them and just letting them know the food's on their doorstep. If there's no answer, just leave the food on the doorstep and go. It's fine. If it gets stolen, so be it. If the dog helps itself to the food, well, so be it. We've done what we can, okay? But again, follow social distancing at all times. Again, if you're opening a gate on the way out, you've touched a surface, so then use alcohol hand rub on your hand wash after touching the gate. Use hand gel after each delivery. So after every delivery, ensure you're using the alcohol hand gel on your hands. Now, there is a specific way you should be applying the hand gel as well. The key is to put enough on, and there's lots of good videos, but you should do it as you're washing your hands. So you're going to do the backs, you rub it in like that, and then you're turning your hands over and rubbing them like that. You're going to circle your thumbs like this with the alcohol hand gel. You're going to do the backs of your fingers like this, okay? And then you're going to do your fingertips like this, fingertips like that, okay? And then you're going to leave it to air dry. There has been one incident so far where someone has not allowed the alcohol hand gel to dry. They've touched the metal surface and their hands have gone on fire, and they actually have had quite bad burns on their hands. So there is a warning now. Ensure that your hands are dry. Allow them to air dry before touching metal surfaces or electromagnetic surfaces. We don't want any hands burned. It's very unlikely, but just to keep that in mind, use alcohol hand gel. Okay. So I think I'm almost there with delivery drivers. Yeah, use the hand gel after every delivery, and confidentiality of patients, the customer's details. So the list of addresses needs to be handed back either to myself or the team leader, or it needs to be destroyed immediately. Don't leave it around lying in the cars in your, rip it up, shred it, destroy it. Make sure the information can't be pieced back together. Lastly, face coverings. We're hoping to provide you with a face mask, and if not, bring one on your own just in case we run out or we don't have enough. But there are some instructions that must be followed. You should be cleaning your hands before putting the face mask on. Again, normal soap and water is fine, 20 seconds. Again, follow the government's advice for how to wash your hands, like I just showed you with the hand gel, or use the hand gel. Make sure it covers your mouth and your nose. I see some people don't cover their nose. Defeats the whole purpose if it's not covering the mouth and the nose. Ensuring where possible there's no gaps. Remember, your mask protects me, my mask protects you. So this is a mistake that some people make. They say, well, I'm not really bothered about getting it, so I'm not really bothered about wearing the mask. Actually, the mask doesn't really protect you from getting coronavirus, because it can go, the virus can enter via droplets into your eyes. So unless you were wearing eye coverings, it's not necessarily going to protect you. But what it does, if you're asymptomatic, which people are 5 days before they get symptoms, they can have the virus. It can be passed on via droplets. You're reducing the amount of spread of droplets that's coming from you. Hence the reason your mask protects maybe some of these vulnerable patients that are coming to customers that are coming to get their food. So we can't be flippant with these face masks saying, well, I'm not really that bothered if I get it. It's the whole idea of the face mask is you're bothered that someone else doesn't get it from you. We're not believing or hoping that anyone has coronavirus, but we know that people are asymptomatic. They can have no symptoms for up to 3 to 5 days before the symptoms come. And so just remember, your face mask protects me. My face mask protects you. And let's protect each other. Avoid touching the mask. And if you do touch the mask, wash your hands again with alcohol hand rub. So avoid touching the mask. Replace the mask if it gets damp. When you're taking it off, take it off at the edges without touching the front of the face mask. And remember that that face mask then we must dispose of safely into a carrier bag, which is going to be tied and put into general waste. So again, don't just take it off. You should be taking it off at the sides, not touching the front. It should be going immediately into a disposal bag. It should be tied and then put into general waste. Discard immediately in a bin. Or if it's a reusable one, again, you still want to be careful of taking it off at the sides, not touching the front. Be putting it into a bag, tying the bag, taking it home, and then getting it straight into the washing machine and washing it at 60 degrees Celsius is the Scottish Government recommendations and guidelines, okay? Again, you would wash your hands after taking it off. When you're putting it into the washing machine, you then use alcohol rub or wash your hands again. Wash at 60 degrees. So guys, thank you so much. I'm sure you're all busy at this time and I don't want to make this any longer. 27 minutes already. I will communicate any changes to that. That's the plan as it is at the moment. I'll just ask you 2 or 3 questions below just so that we can confirm everybody's read, watched this. This is kind of evidence of our attempts to provide some kind of induction basic training. This is very basic induction training to volunteering. And view this as the training, as the induction. I'll ask a very few simple questions below and then just sign it and date it and agree that you've heard and understood this induction, this volunteers agreement, instructions that have been given today. Sign it and get that back to me again before Tuesday. So I just want to express my thanks again on behalf of the Vine Church. Some of you are members of the Vine Church and some are not, but we are delighted that you would consider helping us. Thank you so much. We're in this together. We're here to love people, to serve people, to help people. And at the moment, we're just doing a 6-day trial and we're going to review it and assess it, see how we can improve. Any help you can give to help us get to our final fundraising target would be much appreciated. Any help you can give to share awareness of this and get the people that really need it to sign up would be greatly appreciated. So thanks a million. Look forward to working with you next week. Any questions, any problems, please do get back to me in the email address that this is sent from. Okay, thanks so much. See you next week.